Welcome to the Self-Storage University podcast, where you will learn the correct way to identify, evaluate, negotiate, perform due diligence on, renegotiate, finance, turn around, and operate self-storage facilities. And now, here is your host, a partner in one of the largest real estate portfolios in the U.S. with nearly $1 billion of holdings, Frank Rolfe.
Virtually every self-storage buyer faces this predicament because there's 3 sets of books on every storage facility normally. You've got the one set of books, which are the promises that the seller gives you on the financial attainment that facility can hit. But another set is their actual profit and loss statements from what they've been doing. And then finally, the third set of books are their tax returns. This is Frank Rolfe with the Self-Storage University podcast. We're going to talk about what happens when these 3 different sets of books don't align. The promises, the actual performance, and the tax returns. So the first question you might ask is, why don't they align? And of course, the common answer, the obvious answer, the common sense answer is because sellers like to lie. They like to lie because they want to get more for that self-storage facility than it's worth. So do the brokers. So you just have to understand that. There is some degree of monetary value in pretending it does better than it actually does. And then you have the profit and loss statement. And the profit and loss statement is a little closer to reality because mom and pop can't really lie to themselves. Can't lie to their lenders, can't lie to their investors. So the profit and loss statement is definitely a more accurate portrayal of performance than what mom and pop tell you. But then you have the dreaded tax returns. And on the tax returns, the reality really lets it all hang out. Now, why are the tax returns the most accurate? Because they have the greatest skin in the game. They have the biggest penalty. If you don't do an accurate tax return, it's tax fraud. You could theoretically be arrested, sued. There's a lot of teeth in that mistake. So as a result, really, the tax returns are the most accurate set of books. Between the 3 is the tax returns. And that's exactly why most sellers will not give you their tax returns. They'll come up with all kinds of excuses, privacy, and they're afraid you're nuts and you might turn them into the IRS. But the bottom line is it's because the numbers don't match. It's also a given that the numbers will go down progressively between those 3 sets of books. Highest supposed net income, their promises. Second highest, profit and loss statements. Third highest, their tax returns. And that's just a given. That's just a part of life, just a part of buying a self-storage property. So what do you do when they don't align? Well, when they don't align, clearly what you do is you go to mom and pop and you say, wait a minute, these numbers do not match what you told me. And my value was very much different than what you're telling me now. And there's real teeth in that argument because clearly if the NOI is 20% lower than what they promised you, well, then the price needs to be 20% lower as well. So often, having them not align is simply a trigger for you to try and get a price reduction. Or, if they won't do a price reduction, well, then the other option would be to demand them to carry the paper, carry the financing. Because tell them that the bank isn't going to do this deal. These things don't align. The bank will be spooked. So if I can't use a bank, if I can't get a bank loan, you'll have to carry the paper. You'll have to be the bank. And on top of that, you'll have to be the bank because since your numbers are lower than what you promised, the only way this deal will work if you use a lower than average interest rate. So often when the numbers don't align, you can actually use that as a tool for progress, a tool for change, a tool to make more money. Because the first reaction when those things don't align should immediately be moral outrage, and you hit them up with the fact they're going to have to lower the price and or carry the financing, preferably both. Now, the real trick to all this is that there's really a 4th set of books. They have those 3 sets of books, but you as the buyer, you should have your 4th. Because you go through their P&L and you recraft it based on what you think you can attain. You say, well, this guy does a terrible job of marketing. He's not even online. If I build an online presence, if I get 5-star reviews, I bet I can boost this occupancy from 50% to 75%. Okay, that might be your assumption on growth and revenue. And then you look at it and you say, oh, you know what? This guy just hemorrhages money on nothing. He's spending way too much money on paving. There's all kinds of ways I can cut these costs. And if you're a smart operator and you have the right deal, that 4th set of books is even better than what mom and pop promised you. So now with this 4th set that you've created, suddenly this deal looks a whole lot better than it did even at the best case scenario with mom and pop. And if you use the tool of their promises not aligning with the P&L, not aligning with the tax return, and get them to lower the price and carry the paper, and then you spring forth internally, never tell them about it, the 4th set of books, which made it really wasn't a bad deal as originally promised. That's when you're going to hit possibly your most profitability. Now, it's also important to note in this equation that the mom and pop seller that will be the most susceptible to having these 3 sets of books not aligned is going to be your traditional more mom and pop. Big corporate owners with computerized records, it's very unusual for them to make any errors, and things may well align. But that's not really where the money is in self-storage anymore, right? All those urban multi-story self-storage facilities right now are barely surviving, if they even will. With interest rates doubled, cap rates doubled, most of them are underwater. Just a matter of time before it all shakes out and all comes tumbling down. But if you go to those suburban and exurban markets, out of town, more rural areas, where you can deal directly with moms and pops, that's where you're going to find the better deals. And that's where you're going to find these options to take advantage of their multi-sets of books with your own set of books and forge the best deals of all. This is Frank Rolfe, the Self-Storage University podcast. Hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Self-Storage University podcast. Be sure to visit us at ssupodcast.com, where you can learn the correct way to identify, evaluate, negotiate, perform due diligence on, renegotiate, finance, turnaround, and operate self-storage facilities.